Hey, Joe here from Home Studio Corner. Gonna shift gears a little bit and talk about guitar because a lot of my subscribers are guitar players and songwriters, and this is something I've been doing in my playing, both acoustic and electric, that's been really fun and creative, and it's given me some new sounds that I like to add to my arsenal, and that is the simple but humble drop D tuning. Now, when I say drop D, if you're a guitar player, you might be thinking Creed. Quarters in session, verdict is in. And while drop D is really popular for that style of music, that's not actually what I'm talking about. There's a lot of cool sounds I'm able to get, even playing like folk acoustic stuff with drop D. So if you're not familiar, standard tuning is E, A, D, G, B, E, and drop D is just taking that low E string and dropping it down to a D. Now, I've been doing this for a couple of months now, and so I've gotten really comfortable with just drop D being my normal tuning for both my guitars, electric and acoustic. There are three things that I really like about it. The first is pretty obvious, but it's just the simple difference in chord voicings that allow me to get some other tones that I can't get in standard tuning, particularly in the keys of D, A, and G. If you find yourself playing in those keys a lot, you might want to try out some dadgad and see how it sits with you. Obviously in D, our open D chord, instead of just being the highest four strings, which is what's kind of normal in a standard tuning, we get the all six strings with a big deep D in the bass. Then that allows me to, instead of my D string having to be my bass note, I can play the third of the chord. So I can play this. So I can have that low D, then the third here. Just a lot of options there. And then I play my A, and then my G. I have to come up here for the bass note. So that one's a little more of a stretch. It's not as comfortable to play, but you kind of get used to it. Even in C, when I'm playing C, I'll play C, F, G would be. And I just get used to it, and it gives me some flavor. In the key of A, the D chord will now be our 4 in the key of A, so we could play A something like this. Big deep D for the 4 chord, and the E chord I have to bar here to get me kind of an open E sound. And then obviously in the key of G, when we go to our 5 chord, we can now have that big low D. So for a song like The Story, one of my songs, but I cannot ignore, big low D there. Super fun. Second big thing I like about using drop D, especially on electric, is that you can add nines anywhere. 9 times.
9 times.
9 times.
So as you may already know, when you're playing drop D, you can basically just bar the 3 low strings and get a power chord. So if you just want to play power chords all day because you got your nails done, you could do that. All day, every day, if that's your, thing. So for example, a big heavy song on electric where maybe it's in D, let's say it's in B minor, which is essentially the key of D. I can play my B here. I'm just gonna kind of power chord things, like my song Whitewash. B minor, D, G, that's the 5th fret, E minor, 2nd fret. So I'm just power chording. And that can work a lot of times for doing just basic rhythm stuff. What I love is if I'm gonna go ahead and play, let's say on the G there, if I'm gonna go ahead and play these 3 strings as like a power chord, if I add my pinky here to add that extra 5th there on the 4th string, I guess it's 3rd string, the G string. Got a little more openness, a little more high end. Then all I've got to do is just bring my ring finger down here and it adds a 9, which is in any key, the 9 is essentially the 2nd note of the scale. So in G, G, A, B, C, D, F sharp, G, in that scale of a G chord, the 9 would be an A. So it's technically you go all the way around to 8, which is the same note you started with, G, and the 9th note in that scale is an A. So we're adding an A to this G chord to give it a really cool sound. So here it is without it, here it is with it. And on electric especially, it can be really great because you've just got a handful of notes and they all come through really well. I could play that on, honestly, every note, every chord in this progression. I can add that 9. That would be overkill, but let me just demonstrate it for you. 9 chords, add 9 chords, whatever you want to call them, add so much interest. So if you can slip those in, even just on 1 or 2 of your chords in your progression, it can be really cool. And sometimes it's just not easy to add that in standard tuning. So in standard D, opening up that open E string is the only real way to get that, or something like up here. And that's just a different sound than that, or this. So you've got some different voicings that you just don't have. You can't really stretch your fingers easily that way in standard tuning, but because everything's based on just a bar power chord, you can start adding things in with your other fingers, which leads me to my third point. This past Sunday at church, I was playing electric and leading, and we did a song in the key of D, and so I was doing mostly just big kind of ambient sounds, so big, that kind of stuff with like a big reverb on it, because I'm not an amazing electric player and I was also singing most of the time, so I have to keep it simple. But there was one song that the chorus begins on the 4, so we're in the key of D, so the chorus begins 4, 6, 5, so it goes G, B minor, A, and that's kind of how the whole chorus goes. And in my head, I'm just dying to hear a major 7 chord. So a G major 7 in standard tuning looks like this. You add that little F sharp, but with this dadgad tuning, I can't reach it. I can't go, I mean I can, but I can't get there quickly. Like, we're over here, I can't get there fast enough. So a part of me was saying, okay, that's just one of the casualties of using drop D. I can't play that chord. But then I remembered there's probably another voicing for that, and I discovered it here. So if we do what we did before, we've got our G chord, which is on the 5th fret. So we've got the double power chord going here. If we just put our pinky down, well, first of all, if we put our pinky down here, 3 frets up from the power chord on the 8th fret, we just get a nice open, it's just an extension of that 5th. Just like a D over here, but it's here, the same exact intervals. If we just bring that down to there, so we've got these 2 notes here on the 7th fret, everything else on the 5th fret, gives us this beautiful major 7 chord. And then if we add the 5th up here, actually adds a 9 up an octave from what we were doing before. So we technically are having like a proper 9 chord, which has the 7 and the 9 in it. Doesn't have the 3rd though. So in that song, we're going, so here comes the chorus. And with a big reverb on electric guitar, it's just beautiful. And that's really the only place I've used that major 7 is in the key of D, playing the 4 chord. So the 4 chord oftentimes lends itself to a major 7 if you can add that in, and that's a great way to voice it. I don't lose the bass notes there playing it, so I still get a nice full chord, and then I can stay and drop D for all the other stuff. Like when we finally go back to the 1 on the bridge, it goes. So that's another D, and I can play up here on these strings way up high because I've got this nice open D chord down here. I can move up this. Anyway, there's lots and lots of benefits to drop D. Those are the kind of the 3 ways I like to use it. Try it out on your next session or your next gig or whatever. Next time you pick up your guitar, see if you like it. Come back, leave a comment, let me know. By the way, if you're into recording, this is one of the 1,000 different ways to get better recordings, is to get better at coming up with different parts to play. So much of the recording process and getting it right isn't the microphone, it's the production itself. And I've actually put together a production checklist that kind of helps you think through and ask you a few questions. Okay, do I have some of these? Have I at least checked a few of these boxes in this production to keep it interesting and engaging? You can get that for free. It's really quick. It's kind of thing, if you really like it, you could print it out, have it as a poster in your studio to just remind you of these things. Go check it out at homestudiocorner.com/checklist, and I'll see you in the next one.